Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Tim Gordon. Well, we are just days out now from the primary election in Oregon, and one of the key races this election cycle is the race for governor. Now, because Oregon has a closed primary, voters will ultimately decide which Republican and Democratic candidates will face off in November's general election. 4 major candidates are running on the Republican ticket, and we invited each of them to join us ahead of the primary. However, State Senator Christine Drazan and Marion County Commissioner Danielle Bethel did not respond to our repeated invitations. So today, we'll hear from State Representative Ed Diehl and former Portland Trailblazer Chris Dudley. And we'll start with Ed Diehl, State Representative for the 17th District in the Oregon House. He was first elected in 2022. He serves on several House committees, including as Vice Chair of the Healthcare Committee. And Mr. Diehl, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be with you.
Yeah, great. Well, we're right up close to the election deadline, so it's good timing.
Down to the wire.
Yep,
yeah.
So let's get right to it. We're going to give you a minute to first tell Oregonians why you should be their next governor.
Absolutely. So I look at the issues, and I'm 100% Oregon to start with. I look at the issues that are facing us, which is taxation that is way beyond what people want, a failing education system, a homeless situation that's getting worse, not better, and jobs and businesses that are leaving the state. Those are all due to failed leadership in Oregon, and I want to fix them. I spent my career, before I got my brief stint in the legislature, I've spent my career in business and engineering. And I believe starting a business from scratch, building it up to 100 employees, is a great bedrock and is a great executive training ground to be governor. And that's what I'm bringing to the table. So I'm focused on bringing jobs back, reducing our taxes, getting our agencies accountable again after 4 decades of one-party governance. And that's what I'm going to bring to the table for Oregon.
All right. Well, let's talk about some polling. We're discussing this with some polling that's about 3 weeks old now, fairly recent, but from Nelson Research. Your primary opponent at that point, Christine Drazan, was leading the pack, including you by about 15 percentage points. But you're saying you've got some new information on polling coming in just today.
That's right. This was just announced early this morning on KSLM radio. And we've been watching the trend lines and been very optimistic because the trends have been in our favor, poll after poll.
Okay.
And the polling that just was released today shows basically a dead heat between Christine Drazan and me.
Wow.
With Dudley a distant third. So that confirms what we knew. The momentum is on our side. And people are responding to our message to reduce taxes, to make Oregon more affordable. And the more we get the word out and close that awareness gap, because a lot of people don't know who I am. Once they find out who I am and find out I led the volunteer effort for the transportation tax and fee referendum,
Mm-hmm.
That's changing people's attitude, and that's bringing them to Team Diehl. So we're excited.
Okay, and we'll look forward to seeing that information ourselves.
Absolutely.
And sharing that as well.
You bet.
Okay. Well, so this is the primary election, and we'll talk about the general after this. If you get there, Republicans have not won the governor's office since the 1980s, right? You've got it's time for ITEA, referencing ITEA, the previous Republican governor, the most recent one back in the 80s. But why should this time around be any different, do you think?
Yeah. Well, you know, this button, a gentleman in the Dalles, I was doing a forum there, and a guy came out, and he's decked in all Ed Diehl gear, and he has this pin in his hat. I think he's had it for 40 years.
Oh, wow.
He said, I want you to have this.
That is fantastic.
I want you to have this. Yeah. So
that's an original.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
So, I think, like I was talking before, Oregon is not satisfied with the direction our state is going in so many directions. And they're looking for somebody new. And after 4 decades of one-party governance, you know, the way I see it, we have agencies that are no longer accountable to the people. I think of the Department of Education as one, ODOT is another. And I see an economy where businesses are fleeing. We need to refocus on a thriving economy in this state. And that's why I think Republicans are great, well-positioned, and me in particular, to lead the state.
Yeah, well, speaking of the current administration, I think it's one thing that you and your Republican opponents all agree on is that you don't think that Governor Tina Kotek is doing a good job. What do you think is her single biggest failure as governor, and how would you fix it?
Yeah, well, two big ones that stand out are education. I mean, we're ranked almost dead last in the country, despite spending more money than we ever have, and it's really an embarrassment. And the homeless situation, which is really failed policy that's making the situation work. But let's focus on education.
Sure.
For me, the governor in Oregon is the superintendent of public education, and with that comes a lot of responsibility. I'm calling for accountability and discipline and excellence in our schools. It is okay to set a high standard of excellence, and we are not doing that anymore. I want that. I want to see standardized tests with a high bar for excellence and expectation. We need accountability not only in the classroom, but accountability for students and student behavior, and accountability for parents. I'm talking to a lot of teachers that are very frustrated with what they're directed to do and teach in the classroom, and also their inability to just simply discipline their own classroom. I want to restore that. And I tried in the last legislative session to give teachers the ability to have a little bit more leeway in disciplining their classrooms. The teachers union actually stood in my way of accomplishing that legislation. But the most important thing is get back to the fundamentals of education: reading, writing, arithmetic, science, understanding what the free market is, what capitalism is, the founding principles of our country, really understanding that, and eliminating some of the other things that are directed by our current governor that are put into the classroom that are really, really a distraction from that core curriculum.
Okay, from education to the economy now,
Yeah.
Oregon families are struggling across the board, whether it's gas or at the grocery store. Inflation is up. Affordability is a real thing.
It's huge.
What would you do in your first year that would make life measurably cheaper for Oregonians?
Absolutely. Well, one thing yesterday, I called on Governor Kotek to do a gas tax holiday, to eliminate the 40-cent gas tax, and also eliminate the mandated cost adders related to the clean energy programs, clean fuels program amounts to another 26 cents. That's 66 cents that she could take care of if she wanted to and reduce that load.
You asking for that temporarily then?
A temporary one,
Okay.
until this issue is resolved
Sure.
and gas prices get back to normal.
Okay.
But that would provide immediate relief for Oregonians. But what I'm calling for, Governor Kotek is, I see it every time in the session, it's more and more taxes. I'm calling for tax cuts, specific tax cuts, eliminating the hidden sales tax, which is the corporate activities tax. If you talk to businesses about why they're not coming to Oregon, that's one of the reasons, one of many reasons
Sure.
they're not coming to Oregon. But I'm calling to eliminate that. We're calling to eliminate our really punitive death tax in Oregon. We have one of the most punitive death taxes in the country, if not the most punitive. Calling just to eliminate that. And also calling for a freeze on property taxes for senior citizens. This will provide immediate tax relief and put money back in Oregonians' pockets. In addition, I'm calling to repeal the climate protection program. We have not even seen the impact of that on businesses. There will be, when that rolls out, there will be businesses that it'll no longer be economical to do business in Oregon. They will have to move or they'll go under. That is an egregious executive order. I plan on repealing it.
So you just listed a whole bunch of different taxes that you would
Yeah.
cut. Critics do say voters want solutions, not just opposition to taxes, though. What is your positive governing agenda after you cut those taxes? How do you improve things?
Yeah, so once I get through the primary, I am going to be focused on identifying new leadership for our state agencies. I think it has to be a top priority to get our agencies focused back on core mission with new leadership that is really representative of where the Oregon people want to go. We talked about education.
Yep.
That is misplaced priorities on the part of the Department of Education and in my opinion, poor leadership from the governor and from those she's put in charge. That has to change.
Is there one major state agency that you would drastically reduce or eliminate?
I think with the Oregon Health Authority, we have a bloated agency there that I would be looking at making strategic cuts to. I look at ODOT, and I see an agency there that has projects that have just skyrocketed and bloated, and they're off mission. When you look at a bridge, an I-5 bridge that we should be able to build for $4 to $5 billion, and we're looking at $15 billion in multiple phases because we don't even have the money to do it, or a Rose Quarter project, which is now $2 billion. It should be half a billion dollars. And the $2 billion project doesn't even add a third lane through the Rose Quarter, which is what people really want. I see an ODOT that is misguided and not focused on on the agenda of the Oregon people. And that's what I want to get back to.
Many Republicans nationally have kind of focused on social issues, cultural issues. Do you believe that's helpful to the GOP in Oregon or not?
You know, there's some issues which absolutely are. You know, and one issue, you wouldn't know it if you talked in the building about boys and girls sports, but I know where the Oregon people are at on that. They are on my side. Boys should not be competing in girls sports. Okay. The current legislature and our current governor doesn't even want to have a conversation on that. And we had legislation in this last session and the prior session to prohibit boys and girls sports and girls safe spaces. They did not even allow a hearing. That's a conversation we should have.
Okay. Well, speaking of conversations, we're down to the last couple of minutes in ours and a little bit less than that. So I'm going to ask you for some quick questions, do a couple quick ones. Some Republicans nationally continue to raise doubts about election integrity. The president at the top of that list. Are you supportive of Oregon's current mail-in voting system?
You know, where I'm at with that is I know where Oregonians are at, and they're accustomed to vote by mail. But that said, I'm calling for very specific election integrity reforms. I want to see voter ID, proof of U.S. citizenship, cleaning up our voter rolls, reforming our ballot harvesting laws. We're like the Wild West when it comes to ballot harvesting. And then doing full transparency over the election process to educate voters on chain of custody, on voter churn, and on signature verification, how the strengths and weaknesses of those things. Because we have to educate voters about what works and doesn't work. And I want to implement changes, concrete changes, that provide people more confidence that there is integrity with the system.
Do you support President Trump, and would you accept his endorsement at this point in the race?
You know, I said in the debate, I'm not seeking his endorsement. There's policies of President Trump that I like. There's other policies that I don't like. Yeah. If I was governor, I'd be having a conversation with him about tariffs. And as governor, the National Guard reports to me. So, but there's other things like the tax breaks that were part of H.R. 1. I welcome those. Yeah.
One sentence answer to this: if voters remember you for one thing from your campaign, win or lose, what would it be?
I am a straight shooter. I'm talking to you the same way that I talk to conservative groups, the same way I talk to everybody. That's what I want people to remember.
Representative Ed Diehl, candidate for the primary election governor's race here in Oregon. Thanks a lot for your time.
Hey, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a short break now, and next, candidate for governor and former Portland Trail Blazer Chris Dudley joins us to talk about his bid for Oregon's top job. Stay with us. Welcome back to Straight Talk, and as we interview two top Republican candidates for governor in the upcoming primary election, we want to again say that multiple invitations went out to two other top candidates, Christine Drazen and Danielle Bethel, and neither of their campaigns chose to respond. And now we will hear from Chris Dudley, a former Portland Trailblazer and a business executive. Dudley was the 2010 Republican nominee for governor in Oregon. He ran against Democrat John Kitzhaber in 2010 and lost by about 1.5 percentage points, so a very close race. Mr. Dudley, thanks so much for being with us today on Straight Talk.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
Great
it.
to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and you may notice as viewers that we're going to ask a lot of the same questions that we asked of Representative Diehl of Mr. Dudley, so that in fairness and also so folks kind of compare your answers to the same questions. Okay, first thing we're going to do though is ask you to take a minute and speak to Oregonians about why you should be their next governor.
Well, I think Oregon is at a tipping point, and when we're at a place where we're ranked 50th in education for fourth grade testing, 47th for job creation, 46th to 48th for place to do business. Portland's ranked 80th out of 81 as far as cities to invest in. Number 1 in mental illness and drug addiction. I'm not a politician, and I'm not use hyperbole. I'm not prone to exaggeration, but here we are. Those are devastating numbers, and we have to turn it around. And I feel passionately that we cannot continue down this same path for another 4 years. We have to make changes quickly, and I believe that we need an outsider who doesn't have all the partisan baggage, who can actually bring people together, and has a business background to say that let's fix this. Yeah. Let's get to that point. We have not had a governor that's had a business background in over 40 years. I think that shows. And I don't think anybody on either side of the aisle who's running has the ability to actually bring people together, which is what we need at this point in time in Oregon's history.
Yep. And you feel like you're that person?
I feel like I'm that person.
Let's talk about polling just a little bit. We're referencing a poll that was about 3 weeks old, Nelson Research, that put your opponent, Christine Drazan, up ahead of the pack, including you, by about 15 percentage points. Do you feel you've bridged that gap, and what new information have you heard on polling that makes you feel hopeful?
Well, there was a poll that came out yesterday that showed that head-to-head, I'm beating Governor Kotek, and I'm the only Republican who is. And I don't think that's surprising. I think I have shown, you mentioned the referenced 2010, shown the ability to be able to cross party lines. I had the highest vote percentage of any Republican since 1982 in the governor's race, and have that by a long shot. And have that, it was the closest election in the past 70 years. Used the basketball analogy, we lost in double overtime. We thought we had it won on Tuesday night, and we ended up losing on Thursday. And I'm running on a message that crosses party lines. I'm running on education, economy, livability, which includes affordability and safety. And those are core issues that resonate with Republicans, Democrats, and independents. You know, where do you, everybody wants good schools. You want jobs available. You want your kids to be able to afford to live where they grew up. You want safe streets. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Independent, Republican in those regards. Those are core issues and things that we're struggling in our state right now and we need. And so I think that's why that poll that was just done yesterday, and I'll take the recent poll, that shows me beating the governor. And that's the reason why the governor did not want me to run in this race, is because she is unfavorable right now. 65% disapprove of her handling of the job. And I think there's a clear case here that we need an outsider and to come in and bring us together.
Yep. And yet when it comes to the general, Oregon has not voted in a Republican governor since the 1980s, Vicatia. Why do you think this time around may be different? You partly just answered it.
Well, yeah, and obviously I was the closest to do it since the 80s. And,
Sure.
and Governor Diehl was a friend and a mentor who helped me in 2010, a great man. I would say when running in 2010 and talking to my Democratic friends, I would hear, yes, we're off track, but we can course correct and get it back. Now when I talk to my Democrat, they'll say, no, we're in the ditch. We're totally off track. This is broken. We need change. We need an outsider. We need someone to come in who can bring us together. And so I think there's a real opportunity here. It's hard to argue otherwise. Yeah. I don't know how you argue for the status quo right now. When you're in the bottom 10 in just about every bad category, top 10 in all the good category, opposite, it's a devastating place to be, and we need change.
Yeah. It seems like one thing that all of you Republican candidates can agree on is that you don't think Tina Kotek is doing a good job as governor. No. What do you think is her largest single failure, and how would you fix it?
Well, I think it runs across the board, and I would say I really can't think of any metrics that have gotten better in the 4 years she's been governor or the 12 years since she was Speaker of the House. And it feels like every area that she's focused on has gotten worse, whether it's from homelessness, drugs, housing starts. And one that I'm passionate about is education. And it pains me that we're literally, based on demographics, ranked dead last in the country for testing for fourth graders. And that's something that I harp on, because if you're not literate by fourth grade, you're 4 times as likely not to graduate from high school. You have up to called mid-60% chance of being incarcerated or on welfare. In other words, you're doomed. Your future is doomed, and we have to address that. We're failing our kids.
I know this is one of your top priorities. What would you do about it?
Well, and the good news here is you're seeing other states that have made drastic changes. Mississippi, for example, they call it the Mississippi Miracle, and it's not really a miracle. You focus on the science of reading, phonics, going back to the fundamentals, making sure that all our teachers are equipped to teach the science of reading. Accountability in the schools is one that's very important. Time in classroom is one that's important. And I use the sports analogy here, that if your team is in last place, which you are when you're in the bottom, in education, should your team have the least amount of practice time of any other team? Most people would say no. And yet here we are as a state where we have some of the least amount of seat time in the country, and of a kid from Washington, kid from Oregon meet up. The kid that's graduated high school from Washington has gone to school the equivalent of 1 full year more than the kid from Oregon.
Wow.
If we're gonna make rapid improvement, we have to address
Change that as well, yeah. All right, from education to the economy now, Oregon families are struggling. Every time they go to the gas pump or go to the grocery store, inflation is up. What would you do in your first year as governor to make things measurably cheaper for Oregonians?
Well, I think the first part you start is Oregon's open for business. And as I've traveled the state, and literally we've driven over 11,000 miles, as you said, we're going to Medford later today, across the state, done meet and greets, town halls, round tables in all 36 counties. And you keep hearing that Oregon has gone from business unfriendly to business adversarial. And this is where it's so important that we have somebody come into office who actually understands business and create business. See, Oregon's open for business. As a governor, I will veto any legislation that's coming through that's anti-business, keep setting back business, have relationships with business. As far as affordability is a huge issue. I've talked about lowering, we often talk, especially here in Portland, how we have the highest tax rate in the country, second only in New York City at the high end. But what is not talked about is that for working class Oregonians, we have the highest personal income tax rate in the country. And I've talked about we need to give relief. We need to take a break on the first $100,000 of earned income. And we have to do things to address our housing crisis. Affordability is a huge issue right now, and it's driving people out of our state.
Mr. Dudley, you present yourself as a business-oriented outsider in this, and that seems accurate. What evidence, though, should voters look at to judge your executive leadership skills beyond your basketball career in private sector?
Well, I probably should give my background because people know I played in the NBA for 16 years, but
Sure.
they don't always know that I went to Yale economics. While in the NBA, I was on the negotiating committee for the union. I was treasurer. We negotiated billion-dollar deals, collective bargaining agreements. I worked on healthcare, worked on pension benefits. Afterwards, I got my CFP, started a financial services firm. I've been CEO and chairman of the board of a medical device company based here in Beaverton. And one of the things I'm most proud of is founded a nonprofit for kids with diabetes that's been here in the Portland area for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And so I have that background, and again, it's bringing working with people, coming to solutions, and getting things done.
It's a full resume. We're down to just about 2.5 minutes, so
Yeah.
I'm going to have you do a little bit of a lightning round kind of. You've been critical of state funding, obviously. Name one major state agency that you would drastically reduce or even eliminate.
Well, there's a number that need audits, from ODOT to education, how we're spending our dollars. OHA is one where OHA has over 6,000 employees, which is the same size as CMS, which administers Medicaid and Medicare for the entire country. And that's a problem that we just have to do better with our dollars and not just do audits. People have done audits, but actually act on them and say, how are we spending our dollars? Why, it's not a funding issue in a lot of these issues. It's how we're spending and being accountable for those dollars, and homelessness is in other areas as well.
Okay. This next one may be not a yes or no question, but I feel like we need to ask it. There have been some reports suggesting your abortion position has changed during this campaign. Can you clearly state what your current position is, and do you think Oregon needs more restrictions?
Yeah, it's never changed, and that's you get so tired of the politics of it. It's just the attacks, and it's and that's exactly why we need an outsider who's away from these partisan politics. I've always said I'm pro-life, but I don't want government making that decision. I think it's a family decision. I'm opposed to late-term abortion, but I believe in adoption and promoting life, but I don't want government doing that.
Some Republicans nationally have continued to raise doubts about election integrity. Are you supportive of Oregon's vote-by-mail system?
I think Oregonians have spoken clearly on that. I think it's here. I think what changes will be done may come from the federal level. Whether you have to show ID or on the front end or the back end is something we can look at. I come from the place that this should not be a partisan issue. Everybody should feel confident, and I am dismayed how many people do not feel confident in election integrity. We need to restore that, and as governor, that is something on day one I'll start focusing on to make sure that we have confidence in our elections. We need to.
Okay, well, we're taping this on Thursday, just a few days to go. Wish you well in the campaign, and it's really great to have you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, and thank you again to Representative Diehl as well. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to vote out there, and a reminder, you can stream Straight Talk on your own schedule. Download the free TV app, KJW+. It's available now. We'll see you back here next week.